So welcome students to GDC classes English. So in today's class we are going to see about pharmaceutical engineering and we are going to cover about flow of fluids and it will be followed by size reduction. So let's start with the flow of fluids. So flow of fluids, it is nothing but in this we are going to see about the liquids as well as the gases, because it is not only about the liquid, because gases, they are also separately placed as a single entity. So the flow of gases also we are going to see. So flow of fluids is the flow of the substance which can be liquid or gases that does not permanently resist the distortion. Whatever the distortion will happen, it will not be a permanent, for a temporary. For example, a solid will lead to permanent distortion or the disruption of that structure, but not liquid and the gases. The fluid mechanics is divided into, so there are two types: fluid statics and fluid dynamics. As the names itself suggest, fluid statics means it is rest, it is placed at the rest condition, at the equilibrium. Fluid dynamics means something which is in motion. Dynamics means which is something in a motion. Statics means stationary. Fluid statics deals with the fluids which are rest in equilibrium condition, rest, not moving, in the equilibrium condition. It is employed in the working of manometer. So manometer is an instrument to check the pressure difference across the instrument. So manometers is the instrument to study the pressure difference. It is also applied for quantification of fluid flow, as in the Bernoulli's theorem. This theorem we are going to see. Fluid dynamics, so this was about the statics, means rest, fluid which are rest in equilibrium, and fluid dynamics, it is the fluid which are in motion. So manufacture of dosage form, handling of drugs for administration, so this all includes the fluids in the motion or dynamics fluid. Manometer, these are the devices for measuring the pressure difference. So there are different types of manometers: simple manometer, differential manometers, and inclined manometer. Simple manometer, which measures the pressure at a certain point in a fluid which is contained in a pipe or a vessel. So we will see what are these types of instrument. So that they will measure the pressure difference at a single point, and hence it is known as simple manometer. The instrument which measures the pressure difference across a single point, it is known as simple manometer. So basically they are used in measuring the consumption of gases in chemical reaction, how much gases is been consumed in a specific type of reaction. That can be calculated using simple manometer. They are used in conjunction with the flow meters for measurement of flow of fluids. Next is differential manometers. Now simple manometer means single point. Differential manometer means they will measure the pressure difference between 2 points. Here it is a U-tube fluid manometer, U-shaped. Here also U-shaped, but two fluid U-tube manometer, and hence it will measure the pressure difference across 2 points in a pipe or in a vessel which contains the fluid. So it is useful for measuring even the small pressure difference or a minute pressure difference it will measure. It is used in measurement of small pressure difference. Inclined manometer, it is a device which measures the minute pressure difference between any 2 points. So inclined manometer means also the pressure difference between any 2 points in that specific vessel or a pipe. This type of manometer increases the accuracy of the pressure determination of a particularly small head, increases the accuracy whatever the pressure difference is occurring, and hence it is known as inclined manometer. So simple manometer, differential manometer, and inclined manometer. The next is Reynolds number and Bernoulli's theorem. So Reynolds number is very important. So there are certain ideal values for this Reynolds number, and what is the indication of this Reynolds numbers is also important. So measurement of rate of flow of fluids. Rate of flow means how much amount of fluid is flowing in that particular period of time. That is nothing but rate of flow of fluids. So first is direct weighing or measuring in a specific time how much of fluid is coming. So that is a direct measurement. Next are hydrodynamic methods: orifice meter, venturi meter, pitot tube, rotameter. So this we will see in the next table. Next is direct displacement meter. So in that Reynolds number is important. So it is used for measurement and types of flow determination. So for example, if Reynolds number is 2000, then what kind of flow it will have? Or if Reynolds number is high, what kind of flow it will be? So this is the significant number which gives the idea about the flow pattern of that particular fluid. It is widely used to classify flow behavior of the fluid, and it is the ratio. Remember, it is the ratio of inertial forces to viscous forces. This is important. They may ask you like Reynolds number is the ratio of dash, inertial forces to viscous forces. So R is equal to, Reynolds number is equal to d mu rho divided by eta. So it is inversely proportional to viscosity. Higher the viscosity, lesser will be the Reynolds number. And rest of the diameter, average velocity, density of liquid, it is directly proportional to Reynolds number. So sometimes they may ask the relation between the Reynolds number and the flow of fluid or the density. So remember, only viscosity is inversely proportional, rest of the parameters are directly proportional. And if it is a straight one, it is known as laminar flow. If it is in a random or a turbulent one, it is known as turbulent flow. Now let's see what is the significance of this Reynolds number. So when Reynolds number is smaller, that is less than 2000, then flow is laminar or viscous or streamlined. It is also known as viscous, or it is also known as streamlined or laminar when it is less than 2000. If it is more than 4000, then flow is turbulent. Greater than 4000 means turbulent. That means higher the Reynolds number, the flow will be more turbulent. Then in case of 2000 to 4000, in between 2 to 4000, the flow is either laminar or turbulent. A larger Reynolds number is an indication of highly turbulent flow. The flow is highly turbulent if Reynolds number is more than 4000 or higher Reynolds number. Now critical velocity. Earlier also we have seen there are critical pressure, critical temperature. So these are the specific parameters. If it is critical velocity, means something is going to change at this velocity. If it is critical pressure, something is going to change. Critical temperature. So these are the parameters which give some changes. For example, critical velocity, it is defined as average velocity of any fluid at which viscous flow changes into turbulent flow. That means viscous means laminar or streamlined. So when streamlined flow is converting, or it is changing to turbulent flow, at what velocity it is changing, it is known as critical velocity. It is known as critical velocity. Next is Bernoulli's theorem, when the principle of conservation of energy, what has been used, what has been applied, that has been consumed. So conservation of energy is applied to the flow of fluid. So this is basically an instrument. So here it is a point, here it is V1, V2 velocity indicates, P1 pressure indicates. So this is height. So these are the instrument one. So when the principle of conservation of energy is applied to the flow of fluids, the resultant equation is known as Bernoulli's theorem. So Pa divided by G into rho A plus XA plus U square into A divided by 2G minus F, what is the force and what is the work done. So this all equal to at point A. So this is related to point A here. So it is equal to PB divided by G into rho G plus XB plus U square B divided by 2G. So this is nothing but conservation of energy. What is there at what energy or what force, what work is done at point A, that has been utilized in the B. So both are equal. So this indicates conservation of energy at point A and the B. So earlier we have enlisted about the hydrodynamic method. Now we'll see a little bit briefly about those methods. Now orifice meter, orifice means certain orifice will be there here. Now here you can see the orifice plate, here it is present, that is a variable head meter. So it is referred to as variable head meter, that is it measures the variation. Variable means something is changing. What is changing? Variation in the pressure across a fixed constriction. So constriction means some for example blood vessels, that is something is narrowing. So here you can see this is a constriction point. That means at that constriction, for example a long pipe is there from which water is flowing, and suddenly if you press the pipe, a constriction will be there and water will flow with much pressure. So that is, if you are constricting a pipe, it will flow with a pressure, so it will create a pressure difference. So similar mechanism is applied here. Whatever constriction will be there, that will create a pressure difference across it. So what that variation in the pressure is calculated across a fixed constriction which is placed in the path of flow consisting of a constant area. So area is there. So this is nothing but used for testing purpose, like for streamline. Streamline we have already seen, that is a laminar one. The same diagram was there for the Reynolds number. So here this is a variable head meter. Remember, variable head means the pressure is changing at that specific point. Why pressure is changing? Because of the constriction which is there in the flow of fluid. Next is Venturi meter, that is a variable head meter. Again, similarly here you can see a constriction. So Venturi meter is referred to as variable head meter, that is it measures variable differential pressure. Again, it will measure the variation in the pressure difference across a constriction which is placed in the path of that flow. It is used for liquid, especially water. It is used in online installation and for measurement of the certain gases. So this is Venturi tube. Unlike orifice meter, it is not having orifice. So it is known as Venturi. Pitot tube, that is an insertion meter. Here you can see a pitot tube. This is a pitot tube and a static pressure. So it is used to measure the velocity head of the flow. With what velocity the flow of fluid is there, and pitot tube measures the velocity at one point only. So here you can see the upper point, pitot tube is present. Rotameter, so that is the area meter. Remember the alternative names also, like which of the following is variable head meter, which of the following is an insertion meter. Pitot tube measures the pressure difference across a single point or double point, like that questions may come. So rotameter, it measures the area of the flow so as to produce a constant head differential. Again, here it is not a variable, so remember this thing. Rotameter, that is a constant head differential, used in bulk drug chemical industry and in fermenters for control of air supply. So remember, it is a single head only. That means the pressure is not changing. It is a constant one. Next comes the valves. Valves, we have already seen in the case of aerosols that it will control the amount of the whatever product is coming out. So same valves are used to control the rate of flow of fluids in a pipeline. Only in case of aerosols we have seen for the product concentrate, it will control the flow of product concentrate. In the valves it will be pipeline. So what are the different types of valves? Same like what we have seen for the aerosols. Depending upon the product, the valves will be different. So plug Cox valve, so they are used for stopping or starting the flow of fluid. So those are the plug Cox. Globe valve, so they are used for regulating the flow or the pressure as well as complete shut off of the flow. So if we want to control or regulate the flow of the fluid, or if we want to stop the flow of fluid, then globe valve can also be used. Gate valve is used to completely shut off fluid. So completely stop the fluid, gate valves are there, or in the fully open position provide full flow in a pipeline. So it is like a gate. For example, a college gate will be there. If that is shut off, then everything will be stopped there. So that is the main gate valve. Diaphragm valve, so used to control the fluid flow by regulating the area with which media can enter and exit the valve. Needle valve, it is a precise control of the flow. The name itself suggests needle will be very small, so precise control of the fluid can be obtained. Next is pumps. So pumps are the mechanical device used to increase the pressure energy of a liquid. Pumps. So gear pumps are there. So types of rotary pumps. So these are the rotary pumps and the reciprocating pumps. Rotary pumps, in that the first one is about the gear pumps, used for handling viscous or heavy liquid like vegetable oils, waxes, because they are viscous. So gear pumps are used in aqueous film coating also. Centrifugal pumps, remember volute pumps and turbine pumps. They may ask you like volute pumps and turbine pumps are the example of which type of pumps. So centrifugal pumps based on the centrifugal force. So they are used for viscous, non-viscous, non-corrosive and for handling of organic solvent. Types, applications are important. They may ask you like for organic solvent which of the pumps are used. So types of reciprocating pumps. So first is piston pump, used in the peristaltic and HPLC pumps for spray system in sugar coating, film coating. This type of pumps are used to move liquids or certain compressed gases. Plunger pump, they are used for handling liquids at high pressure. It is used for transport of viscous liquid, and liquid contains suspended solids. So some suspended solids might be present. So for that plunger pumps are used. Diaphragm pump. So it is an optimistic displacement pump that uses rubber, thermoplastic or Teflon diaphragm with appropriate valve interaction on both sides of the diaphragm to pump the fluid. It is used for transporting liquid which contains the solid. Hazardous, toxic, corrosive liquids can also be handled using a diaphragm pump. Now remember, Baltic pump, it is used in handling of corrosive liquid. Which of the following is used for corrosive? So that is a Baltic pump. Foaming during the liquid filling. Certain surfactants, if it is present, then a little bit movement or filling, it may cause foam. So to avoid that foam or to minimize product turbulence, closed system filling or defoaming devices are also available, so that it will reduce the foam which is occurring while filling the containers. So this was about the flow of fluids. The next important topic is about the size reduction. We have already seen the importance of size reduction. For example, lesser particle size means more surface area, more dissolution will occur, more bioavailability will be there. So size reduction is an important terminology. So it is a process of reducing larger solid unit masses into small unit masses, that is a coarse particle or fine particles. So it is a process of reducing larger particles into smaller particles. And this process is also known as comminution, diminution, or pulverization. That is the reason pulverization, this is the word for powders also, because it is having lesser particle size. So objectives, what are, why we should do this size reduction? Because it increases the surface area of the particle, hence increases the rate of dissolution and absorption, bioavailability, and therefore increases the therapeutic efficacy, which is known as, like, bioavailability also it will increase, therapeutic efficacy also it will increase. It facilitates mixing and drying by milling by increasing the surface area. In ophthalmics, aerosols, inhalation, parenteral preparation where controlled particle size is required, which facilitate by size reduction. So in this ophthalmic, aerosols, parenteral, so their minimum size is required. In oral formulation, little bit higher size is okay, but in case of other route of administration, lesser particle size is required, and hence size reduction is important. Now, modes of stress applied in size reduction. There are different types of modes. For example, cutting. So the material is cut by means of a sharp blade. The material which is cut using sharp blades, it is useful for combination of fibrous or waxy solid. Remember which of the following technique is used in the size reduction of waxy material or fibrous material. So like these questions may come. Example is cutter mill. So basically cutter mill is used for fibrous or waxy materials also. Compression, this material is crushed. Compression, something is been compressed, crushed between rollers by the application of pressure. So example is roller mill. Remember, cutting means cutter mill, roller means rolling mill, which works on the principle of compression. Impact means larger particle size is striking to some harder surface area like hammers. So that is nothing but impact. That is nothing but impact. So here you can see larger particle surface area, when it strikes to the hammers, so the size reduction will happen. So this involves the operation of hammers or bars at high speed. When a lump of a material strikes the rotating hammers, so the hammers are in a rotating position, so the material will split apart. This action continues until particles of required size is obtained. Example, hammer mill. So hammer mill, they are continuously in a random motion, in a circular motion, and whenever a particle will strike, it will split into smaller size, and this process continues until we get the desired size. So that is the impact. So basically hammer mill works on which principle? Roller mill which works on which principle? Cutting, compression, impact. Like that questions may come. So remember, hammer mill means impact. Attrition. So this process involves breaking down of the material by rubbing action between two surfaces. Attrition. Example, fluid energy mill. So between two surfaces, if any attrition occurs, then the size reduction will occur. So that is nothing but fluid energy mill works on this principle. So factors affecting size reduction. There are different factors which will affect the process of size reduction. Hardness. Harder the material, more difficult to reduce its size. If the material is very hard, then more energy will require to reduce its particle size, and hence it will become difficult for size reduction. Moisture content. Less than 5% moisture suitable for dry grinding and more than 50% for wet grinding. So depending upon whether it is a the material is dry or wet, Dry means less than 5%, then we can go for dry grinding. And if it contains more moisture, like more than 50%, then we will go for wet grinding. So this is about the moisture content. Elastic materials. So synthetic gums, wax, resins become soft and plastic during milling. So whenever we will try to do size reduction of this waxes, resins, they will convert from this elastic material to plastic material. Solvated materials, so sodium sulfate and other hydrates liberate water during milling and cause clogging of the mill. So what happens? Solvated materials, sulfate and certain hydrates. Hydrate means they have water molecule present in their crystalline structure. So that is nothing but hydrate. Apart from hydrate, if any other solvent is there, it is known as solvate. So what happened during the size reduction? Because we are breaking the crystalline structure, because of that size reduction, the water will liberate, and because of that, the clogging of the mill occurs. So we have to be careful about whenever using the solvated material. So these are the certain factors which will affect the process of size reduction. Next is there are certain theories. So first is Rittinger's theory. So this is energy E required for size reduction of a unit mass, of a certain particular mass. What is the energy required? That is directly proportional to the new surface area produced. For example, this is one particle. If it is dividing into two particles, then whatever the energy is required, that is proportional to the new surface area which is produced, because your surface area is less. Because of size reduction, surface area is increased. How much surface area is increased? The energy is proportional to that new surface area produced. So this is given by Rittinger's theory. So E is equal to amount of energy, that is kilowatt into hour. SI is the initial specific area, micrometer square per micrometer cube. Next is new specific surface area, that is SN, because now new surface area will be more as compared to initial. That is the reason SN minus SI. And Rittinger's constant, that is energy per unit area. So this is KR. So remember, energy is directly proportional to the new surface area which is produced, and this is nothing but Rittinger's theory. Now Bond's theory. Bond's theory means the energy used in crack propagation is proportional to the new crack length produced. Similar to Rittinger's is telling that energy is proportional to the new surface area. Now it states that the energy used for deforming or fracturing a set of particles. Particles, if we are deforming, that is equivalent shape is proportional to the change in particle dimension. Whatever the particle dimension will change, the energy will be proportional to that particle dimension. Now E is equal to 2 kb. So this is a Bond's constant. 1 divided by square root of dn minus 1 divided by square root of di. So initial diameter of the particle, that is di, new diameter of the particles. In the Rittinger's theory, it was directly proportional to the new surface area. Here it is proportional to the diameter. And this is a Bond's work index, that is energy per unit mass. So this is about the Bond's theory. Kick's theory, the energy used in deforming or fracturing a set of particles of equivalent shape is proportional to the ratio of the size changes. Now initially more size, afterwards it is a less size. So Kick's constant is equal to energy. Kick's theory says that energy is equal to Kick's constant into ln di divided by dn. Di is the diameter of the initial particle size and dn is the diameter of the new particle size. So both are same, Bond's theory and Kick's theory, only there is a difference between the formulas. So this was about the Kick's theory. So three theories: Rittinger's, Bond's and Kick's theory. Rittinger's theory is about the surface area, whereas Bond's and the Kick's theory is about the diameter. Now size reduction equipment. So this is a cutter mill where the sharp blades are used. The principle is cutting. Product size after the size reduction, it will be 20 to 100 mesh. It rotates at speed from 200 to 900 revolution. Fibrous animal tissues and the vegetable drugs and the adhesive materials can be size reduction can be done of these materials using cutting. but they are not used for any friable materials which can break easily. So friable materials, it is not used. Hammer mill, we have already seen hammer mills means hammer bars we are using, which are in a rotating position. So the principle is impact 4 to 325 mesh, that is 10 to 400 mm, and the revolution, it can go up to 8,000 to 15,000 revolutions per minute. It is used to dry materials, wet filter press cakes, ointments, slurries, but it is not used for the abrasive materials. Next is roller mill. So roller means it works on the principle of the pressure which is applied between two rollers, the material will be compressed between the rollers. So it is a compression. So 20 to 200 mesh soft materials can be easily size reduced using roller mill, but it is not used for abrasive materials. Next is fluid energy mill. So that is a jet mill, micronizer, ultra fine grinders. These are the alternative names. The principle is impact and attrition. Impact means we have already seen some hammer or bars will be there. 1 to 30 mm of particle size can be obtained. So compressed air of 600 kilopascal to 1 megapascal is used. It is used for antibiotics and vitamins. Remember which of the following instrument is used for size reduction of antibiotics and vitamins. Moderately hard, friable material and thermolabile, because here there is no generation of any of the temperature. So thermolabile materials, and that is the reason antibiotics, vitamins can be easily size reduced, but it is not used for soft and sticky material. Next is colloidal mill. So shearing and homogenization is the principle. 3 to 75 micron particle size, 3000 to 20,000 revolutions per minute. It is used for colloidal dispersion, suspension, emulsion, ointments, and it can be used for sterile products. Which of the following mill is used for sterile products? And dry milling is not possible for your. Next is edge runner mill, end runner mill. So crushing and shearing is the principle. The particle size which can be obtained is 20 to 80 mesh. 20 to 80 mesh. It is used for plant-based products. It is also used for chemicals and the drugs, but not for the sticky material. We cannot use this for any of the sticky material. Ball mill or pebble mill and tumbling mill. So in this case, impact and attrition is present because balls of smaller size is used, so material is get impacted between the surface of the balls. So it is also known as pebble mill or tumbling mill, both are same. Impact and attrition is the principle. So 20 to 200 mesh, that is 100 to 5 mm, the particle size which can be obtained. The balls occupy 30 to 50% of the volume of the cylinder. Remember that much amount of the balls should be present. If it is less means proper impact, proper attrition, your material will not get. So that is the reason 30 to 50% the balls should be present. It is used for the production of ophthalmics and parenteral. Again, this one is used for ophthalmics and parenterals. Similarly, for colloidal, the sterile materials are used. Ball mill at low speed is used for milling dyes. So if we use at lower speed, it can be used for dyes, pigments, insecticides. Brittle materials can be used. It is operated at 60 to 85% of the critical speed. And Hardinge mill is a variant of a ball mill. Which of the following is a variant of a ball mill? Hardinge mill is a variant of a ball mill. Soft materials cannot be used. Disintegrator, so it works on the principle of impact, and all type of drugs can be size reduced using disintegrator. Next is separating equipment. So mechanical siever, we know that sieves which are generally arranged in serially order. After certain point, we will see on each sieve different sizes of the particles will be obtained. So the principle is agitation, because we are shaking the sieves for a certain period of time. So particle diameter 5 to 10,000 micrometer can be obtained depending upon which sieve we are looking for. So agitator, so that is a principle is sieving 5 to 5,000 micrometer. Cyclone separation. Cyclone, if you see, so that is a centrifugal force is applied. So 2 to 50 micron. Sedimental tank, that is a sedimentation, so which is based upon the particle size difference. If it is diameter is more, it will settle easily, and the lesser particle size will float. So that is a sedimentation. which is based on the gravitational or which is based on the centrifugal. If it is based on gravitational, it is 5 to 1000 micron. If it is based on centrifugal force, 0.1 to 5 micron. Elutrator or elutriation, so again gravitational means 10 to 1000, 10 to 100 micron, and centrifugal means 0.5 to 50 micron. So this is nothing but separating equipment. Now powders. So there are certain powder grades. We have heard coarse powder, fine powder. So what is the particle size and how it should be? So coarse powder means the sieve through which all the particles must pass. So coarse powder, they are bigger in size, but it should pass from sieve number 10. All the particles should pass from sieve number 10, and less than 40 particles should pass from sieve number 44. Sieve number 44. If it is so, then it is known as coarse particle. Moderately coarse means all particles should pass from 22 sieve, and less than 40% particles should be through sieve 60. Through sieve 60. Moderately fine means now particle size is reduced little bit, so it can pass through 44 mesh, and less than 40% should pass through 85 sieve number. Less than 40%, okay, it should pass from 85. Fine particles means all the particles should pass from sieve number 85. Fine means now again particle size is reduced little bit, 85. Then sieve through sieve 120, less than 40% of the particles should pass through sieve number 120. It is not more than 40%, because if it is more than, it can be very fine, it can be microfine. So less than 40% of the particles should pass from 120. Very fine means all the particles should pass from 120. Microfine means all the 90% should pass from 350. That is very fine. And superfine means 90% pass through 10 micron. Now this is not a sieve number, so this is actually the particle size. So that is a 10 micron. So these are the grades of powders. So based on they are passing through which sieve number, the powders are categorized as like fine powder, super fine, coarse, moderately coarse, like that. Now equipment for size separation. So shaking screen, shaking in terms of like oscillation will be there. So the screen is allowed to shake in a reciprocating motion. So because of the shaking of the screen, larger particles will come first and the smaller particles will come later. Rotex screen, so oscillating, agitation and the vibration, these are the principle. So the granular matrices and powder foods are also size separated by Rotex screen. Cyclone separator, we have seen, it is based on the centrifugal force. You might have seen about the cyclone, like that it will be there. So it is based on the centrifugal force. So it is used to separate the solids from the gases. Size separation of solid and in liquid. It is used for separating the heavy or coarse fraction from the fine dust. Air separator is also based on the centrifugal force. So air separators are often attached to ball mill or hammer mill to separate and return oversized particle for further size reduction. So the ball mill, to that only this air separator is attached. For example, if larger particles are there, again it will return to ball mill for size reduction. Back filter, so suction and pressure is applied. So back filter is connected to the discharge end of the fluidized energy mill. This we have seen for size reduction. So there only back filters are applied. If again larger size means it will again retain or come back to the fluid energy mill. Scrubbers, so inertial impact and absorption is the principle. This equipment combines the action of cyclone for separation of entrained droplets of the water. Now remember sieve size 80. If sieve size number is 80, it has an opening of 0.180 mm. If sieve size is 80, it has an opening of 0.180 mm. Brushing method enhance the movement of sticky material. If any sticky material is there, the brushing method is involved to enhance the movement of that sticky material. Number of meshes per linear length indicates a nominal aperture size. Number of meshes per linear length. So that is nothing but nominal size aperture of the sieve. So sieve, it has a sieve number and its nominal aperture number, that is the sieve number and the size of that aperture. For example, if it is 80 mesh means number of meshes, that is 80 per linear length indicates, and that is the nominal size aperture. In air separator, centrifugal force for circulation of air, it is supplied by rotating blades. The area of clear opening of any two successive sieves according to Taylor's standard is in the ratio of 1 is to square root of 2. So this is important. The ratio, that is 1 is to 2. And this is according to Taylor's standard for two successive sieves. Between two successive sieves, the area of clear opening should be in the ratio of 1 is to square root of 2. So that is all about pharmaceutical engineering, in which we have seen about the flow of fluids and the size reduction. We will see the next interesting topic in the upcoming session of GDC classes English. So thank you so much.